Good morning. Ms. Barnard, we're not on the record yet, even though the matter is now being recorded. This is just general instruction. First of all, my name is Sean Gavin. I'm an administrative law judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over the petition portion of today's board meeting. This is general instruction for the petitioner, Mr. Hill, as well as the board members who are present and will be speaking today. Mr. Hill, we're joined here by a Deputy Attorney General, Ms. Doherty, who I saw on the attendee list. Ms. Doherty, are you with us? See, she's muted and unmuted a few times. I just hesitate to move forward without Ms. Doherty acknowledging that she's present. Ms. Doherty, I had a microphone issue as well. On the bottom where it says mute.
I'm sorry, our building just got evacuated for a fire.
Oh.
We should be back in like 15 minutes. Do you guys mind starting late?
That's okay with me, Dr. Paris.
Yeah, I think unless we can, I would, if Ms. Walker, our executive director, is on, I don't think we can. I'm wondering if we can, next to you, Ms. Cruz. I'm wondering if we can jump to another agenda item and then come back to this.
Dr. Paris, yeah, why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order? We'll take roll, and then we can proceed with the public comment for non-agenda items, and we'll just allow, we'll take a few agenda items while we wait for Ms. Doherty to join us again.
Okay. Judge Gavin, is that okay?
Oh, not your fault.
Okay, great. So we're gonna go a bit out of order, and let me first of all, I have it's 9:10 a.m. So let me call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners is being held by teleconference. The date is Thursday, October 24th, 2024, and the time is 9:10 a.m. The board's paramount responsibility is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the public through licensure, education, engagement, and enforcement in chiropractic care. Members of the public may address the board during the public comment session. Public comments will also be taken on agenda items at the time the item is heard and prior to the board taking any action on said items. Those who would like to provide public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, unless in the discretion of the board, circumstances require a longer period. Members of the public will not be permitted to yield their allotted time to other members of the public to make comments. Individuals may appear before the board to discuss items not on today's agenda. However, the board may not discuss or take action on these items except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded. Please turn off or silence all cell phones. And we will now take the roll call. And Ms. Cruz, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Dr. David Paris.
Present.
Sorry, one moment. When I take roll, please list your address and if there's any members, and if there's any members of the public present. So one more time, Dr. David Paris.
Present at 3455 Knighton Road, Redding, California, 96001. No members of the public present.
Thank you. Dr. Lawrence Adams.
Present, located at 101 Andrick Street, Sonoma, California. There are no public members present.
Ms. Jeanette Cruz, present at 1625 North Market Boulevard, Suite N22, El Dorado Room, Sacramento, California, 95834. No members of the public present. Dr. Pamela Daniels.
Present, 1165 Park Avenue, San Jose, 95126, and no members of the public are present.
Dr. Claudia Santino, I believe is absent. And Mr. Raphael Sweet.
Good morning. Yes, I'm present at 12750 Center Court Drive South, Suite 750 in Cerritos, California. BCE staff member Tammy Pitto is present, but no members of the public.
Thank you.
And this is Sabina, if you can hear me. If any members of the public arrive at any of your locations throughout the meeting, will you please let us know verbally? And that way we don't have to keep checking in every time there's public comment at each location.
Thank you. Okay, can we please, moderator, can we please move to agenda item number 5? Public comment for items not on the agenda. Thank you. Just want to let members of the public know that you may address the board at this time, and identifying yourself is voluntary and your name will be recorded in the official minutes of the meeting if it is provided at the time of your comment. And moderator, can we please open agenda item number 5 for public comment?
Absolutely. We are open for public comment for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand. And for our mobile device users, you have 3 different screens and only one of them has a hand button. So you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's your ... at the bottom, and cycle through the 3 different pages in order to find your hand. Our first request, public comment speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 15-second warning before time expires. And our first request looks like it's coming from Marcus Strutz. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. All right, Marcus, I see that you're unmuted. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. Proceed when ready.
Good morning to everybody. This is Marcus Strutz. I'm a continuing education provider for the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. I've been doing that for over 20 years, and I'm going to be addressing the issue of the CE rules and regulations that have been painstakingly taking an extended period of time to be approved. It's been passed back in October of 2022, and then I had a long talk with the executive officer yesterday, and it just seems like it's being dragged out and not enough action is being taken. It was supposed to be approved January 1st of 2024. It's now going to be 2025, probably July of 2025. Sounds like what's happening. So it's extremely disappointing to see the lag on this issue. I know all the board members, Dr. Parrish, Dr. Adams, Dr. Daniels, have put an extraordinary amount of effort into this, and it has just stopped for some reason. And it's supposedly getting pushed through, but the slowness is extremely alarming and disturbing. So I don't really know what else to say other than to bring it up again and again and again. But it's a sad time for the board and the people working on this project as they're not getting the job done, unfortunately. So that's my comments. I hate to start off with a bummer, but that's the reality of the situation. It's been going on for years, and it needs to be changed. And I don't know that the board members themselves have the power to do that, but I know they all know, and I know I'm beating the drum again. So, but I just wanted to say it one more time. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Strutz, for your comments, and it's never a bummer on our end. We appreciate your feedback, and we always take that into consideration, so appreciate you getting on the call.
Next, we're going to hear from MP. Hold on just a moment. We're going to send you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to say thank you to the board for taking the time to continue to look into the animal chiropractic situation for the people of California. So we wanted to say thank you guys for taking the time and looking into that. Thank you.
Thank you again for your comments, and appreciate that.
And those are all of our requests via WebEx.
Okay. Hearing no one, did you say no one else waiting? We're good? Okay, moderator, can you please close the public comment? Thank you. Just doing a check-in. Are we still good to move forward, or is our DAG still out of the building?
This is the moderator.
This
I
is
have not
Sabina.
heard. Go ahead, Sabina.
Go ahead. No, you go.
All right. This is David, the moderator. I haven't heard from the DAG yet.
Okay. Okay, we'll just keep moving forward. Why don't we just jump to agenda item number 6, and that's the board chair's report. Well, I'll be relatively brief. I just want to first thank everyone from staff who's really had a lot of work this last year, and I want to thank the board for their continued efforts and all the work that we've done. And we currently have, as you can see in the packet, we have 20 regs that we're currently working on. It's an extremely high volume. 7 are in production phase currently, and 13 are still remain in concept phase. And I just want to acknowledge that the work that the board did in the concept phase and then continuing into the production phase was really the bulk of that was 2023, that time. And then this process kind of requires that then moves to where a larger percentage of that work has to continue with staff. And I know that's been really busy for staff, and I'm excited about it. And I think it's really hopeful that we can get this volume of work done. And I hope that next year the cycle comes full circle again, where now we're back into moving these concept phase bills. And as Dr. Strutz mentioned, our stakeholders are eagerly anticipating, these regulations to see it through. So I'm hopeful for that, and I'm thankful for everybody and on all of your hard work. And I think that would be probably my main goal, is to have that cycle return back biannually. I think that's kind of the natural cycle of how the board work really should go. We're always working on everything, but it seems like we really had a bulk of the concept to the production phase the last couple of years. I would update, really we continued outreach and stakeholder discussions. I would start with on August 30th, we met with the Vet Medical Board and their executive officer and one of their board members who was an expert in equine surgical, I believe. And so that was fascinating just to hear from him. And he had a few anecdotes about, his role as an expert there. And we had a really productive meeting. The president of their board was not able to make it. And I want to publicly, so we met with her later on a separate call on September 26th. And we met with Christina Bradbury, Dr. Christina Bradbury, the chair of their board. And we had a really, really nice meeting. And I've listened to the content of their call, their recording, and they recently had a meeting where they discussed this issue also. And I felt like they were also really appreciative of the outreach that we were able to do on this issue. And I feel like in that discussion and that outreach, I think we're kind of bridging the gaps that otherwise sometimes maybe don't get bridged, and creating conversations and connecting people. And part of their call was to then discuss having some of the AVCA, the American Veterinarian Chiropractic Association folks and maybe some other experts on their next board call in January. And so I really feel like that helped move this issue forward in a significant way. And so I want to thank their board and their chair for allowing us to do that. And again, I think, you know, when we added engagement to our mission vision statements, this was it. This was kind of one of those moments where the engagement, so appreciate them for that. And we have been having opportunities to meet with a lot of the colleges, and they've been asking us to kind of come out and maybe start to, there seems to be a movement to have the board reach out to students and get in front of them and maybe do a presentation, whether virtual or on campus, and especially for those who are about to get into the licensure process, and maybe, you know, just kind of show our support and show the resources that we have available. And so I have currently only one more of those on the calendar, which December 6th, Southern California University has an ethics class, and they've asked to present there for an hour. So that's on my agenda coming up. And the final update for me would be there was a kind of a new conference in the profession, and it was called Chiropractic 2030, Building a Pathway. And it was really a gathering of the key stakeholders in the profession in the areas of education, which would be the Association of Chiropractic Colleges, ACC, accreditation, which is the Council on Chiropractic Education, CCE, assessment, and which is the National Board of Chiropractic Examiners, NBCE, and licensure, which would be the Federation of Chiropractic Licensing Boards, the FCLB. And all of those groups jointly acknowledge the need for greater collaboration and meaningful discourse in you know, student access, public safety, and generally the advancement of the profession. And so in my role as on the board of directors for FCLB for District 4, we were invited to attend that meeting, and we were there this week, Sunday to Tuesday. So kind of an unusual meeting time, but very productive meeting. And I believe they will put out a full report in the form of a white paper coming up soon. And the two main takeaways, one, we do a lot of shared work, and sometimes we're working on the same work product. And so there's opportunity for collaboration in the profession there, and competency-based education, and the desire seemingly to move into more competency-based education. My sense from really every stakeholder there and all the leadership there, I think there was strong support that, you know, realizing too that competency-based education isn't always well defined, especially in chiropractic education. So the realization that there's a massive effort that needs to happen to get everyone up to speed. And then finally, a focus on, you know, discussions about how do we educate board regulators, you know, all the states and all the new board members with various backgrounds and expertise and knowledge, skills, and abilities. How do we educate, you know, these somewhat transient, you know, kind of changing positions, you know, so various degrees of length of terms, you know, some 6, 8 years, and then some they've been there for 20. So a lot of good collaboration, and I thought, and finally, I'd say it was deemed as historic, and I'm not saying that because I was there, but I'm saying this was kind of, it was unknown to me that our profession has never had all of those leadership groups in education, accreditation, assessment, and licensure, has never had them all in the same room together, working collaboratively on the profession. So Really great meeting, and when the white paper comes out, we will distribute it widely as best we can, especially to the board members and the public. So that's all I have, and I'd be open to take any questions from the board. Okay, hearing none. Thank you. That was probably the longest board chair report I've ever given. So thank you for sitting through that. And to the public, moderator, can we please open agenda item 6, the board chair's report, for public comment?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 6. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. For our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... in order to find your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, you can close the public comment. Thank you.
Also, we just got our DAG back.
Oh, okay, great. We'll move right back to agenda item 2, right, as soon as we close this. Okay. So agenda item 2, a petition hearing for reinstatement of a surrender license. And I will turn this immediately over to our judge today. And sorry, I wrote down.
That's all right.
Judge Gavin, it just came to me. Sorry. Judge Gavin, thank you. Welcome, and sorry for the delay. And I will turn this over to you.
Not to worry. Thank you. Ms. Doherty, welcome back. Hopefully you've had a chance to catch your breath after the excitement of this morning. And I see Dr. Hill is with us. So good morning to you both. Ms. Barnard, we're not on the record just yet. I just want to briefly explain the hearing procedures that will follow before we go on the record. The matter is being electronically recorded by the board, but we're not on the official record yet. Mr. Hill, in a moment, I'll call the case. I'll introduce it by case number and name. I will identify myself. I'll ask the 2 parties to identify themselves, namely you and Ms. Doherty. And then I will do a brief roll call just to establish the quorum of the board members who are present for the specific record of your case. After that, I'll turn the matter over to Ms. Doherty, who will present a brief summary of the license and disciplinary history and present the petition packet, supporting documents, and any other exhibits. Those exhibits are housed within Case Center. It looks like presently there are 169 pages. And so Ms. Doherty will present those. You'll have the right to object if you think there's some reason that the board should not consider one or more of those documents when they decide this case. After she has presented that information, we'll turn it over to you to present any additional evidence you'd like to present. You can testify on your own behalf. You can call other witnesses if you have other individuals you think the board should hear from. And you can also present additional documents if you have any, and you're able to do that. Let me just check now. Do you anticipate having any additional witnesses or documents?
I don't have any additional. I think Ms. James was able to include all of the documentation, even the late showing up documents into the final package there.
Okay, very good. After you have testified, then I'll give Ms. Doherty, followed by each board member by roll call, a chance to ask you any questions they might have. We call that cross-examination, but it's just a chance for Ms. Doherty and the board members to clarify anything that they need clarified. After you've testified, Ms. Doherty and all board members have had a chance to question you, I'll then give the parties a brief opportunity to make closing argument if they would like. Closing argument is a chance for you to briefly summarize what you think the evidence showed and suggest what outcome should happen as a result. Closing argument is optional. That will be up to you whether you'd like to make any sort of closing remarks or not. After that, the board will then convene into closed session and decide your petition, and so you won't get the result today. Any questions about those procedures?
No.
All right. If you do have questions as they arise, I would invite you to ask them. I will do my best to answer procedural questions. No one here will try to use legal terminology in a way that confuses you or try to trick you in any way. Really, the board is truly interested in what you have to say and present by way of rehabilitation. And so we'll make sure you have that full opportunity.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just then say one final word to anyone who will be speaking on the record today. We do have a court reporter who, once we go on the record, will have the job of transcribing in real time everything that everyone says. That is among the hardest jobs of all of them today. And so we need to do some things to try to make that easier for her if we can. Those things are as follows. Number one, please make sure that you speak loudly enough, slowly enough, and one at a time enough that she can make out who is speaking and what they're saying. Number two, please ensure that you communicate with words as opposed to gestures or non-word sounds, nodding your head or shrugging your shoulders. She won't hear it, so she won't type it. So too for non-word sounds. And for example, look incredibly similar when typed out, and it will be hard for someone reading that transcript to know what was actually said or meant. Finally, it may happen from time to time that the reporter did not clearly hear something. She may need to interrupt to ask someone to repeat what they just said. If that happens, she means the word repeat. She does not mean clarify, explain, or provide additional detail about. She just wants you to say the exact same word or phrase that you just said, but louder and slower. All right. With that, let me just check in with our reporter. Ms. Barnard, are you ready to go on the record?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Doherty, are you ready to go on the record?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you.
And Mr. Hill, Dr. Hill, are you ready to go on the record?
Yes.
All right. We are on the record in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of surrendered license of Brent Anthony Hill, license number DC 18107. The matter is being heard before the California Board of Chiropractic Examiners with case number AC 2013-974. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to hear this case from the Office of Administrative Hearings. The OAH case number on this matter is 2024-100-029. At this point, I will take the appearances of the parties, starting with the Deputy Attorney General.
Good morning, Caitlin Doherty, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the board has adequate information from which to make a decision today. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty, and we're also joined by the video conference by the petitioner, Dr. Hill, without the assistance of an attorney. Is that right, sir?
Yes, that's correct.
Before we went on the record, I explained the hearing procedures. I will not provide the full explanation now, but rather I'll just briefly summarize. In a moment, Ms. Doherty will present the license and disciplinary history, as well as the petition packet and supporting documents. After that, Dr. Hill, you'll have the chance to testify on your own behalf. If you have additional witnesses or documents, you can also present those. After your testimony, Ms. Doherty and each board member will have a chance to cross-examine you. After that, the parties can make brief closing remarks before the matter is submitted. If you have any questions about the hearing procedures, please ask them as they arise for you. Do you have any questions presently?
No.
With that, Ms. Doherty, I'll turn it over to you with an invitation. Please speak 10% slower than you think you need to. And whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd first like to start with the board's exhibits. What's first marked for identification as Exhibit 1 is the original petition packet with accompanying documents. That exhibit consists of the notice of hearing dated October 1st of 2024 with attached proof of service, and that can be found at the end of that first exhibit. And the case line Bates numbers are A135 to A137. The first document in that exhibit is a board memorandum dated October 1st of 2024, which is in Bates number for case center A1 to A3, which consists of a license history for petitioner. Following that is petitioner's continuing education log that was prepared by board staff. And then following that is petitioner's petition for reinstatement of revoked license dated April 8th of 2024 with attached supporting documents. That petition is found on board Bates numbers BCE 1 to 79 and then case center Bates A5 to A83. Following petitioner's petition is copies of the board's prior decision and orders. First is the petition for reinstatement ordered December 8th of 2022, which can be found at board Bates numbers 80 to 88, and then case center Bates numbers A84 to 92. And following that is the board's decision and order adopting the stipulated surrender ordered March 10th of 2022 with attached pleadings. That is board's Bates numbers 89 to 130 and case center A93 to A134. And I would just like to point out for the record that the second amended accusation is the operative pleading in those documents. At this time, Your Honor, we ask that Exhibit 1 be admitted for all purposes.
Dr. Hill, the documents Ms. Doherty described a moment ago constitute Exhibit 1. Is there any reason you believe the board should not consider those documents when deciding your petition hearing?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. What's been pre-marked as Exhibit 2 consists of a second memorandum from the board dated October 17th, which contains the supplemental documents submitted by petitioner, which generally includes a Stanislaus County minute order dated November 5th of 2021, showing a dismissal of the criminal charges, additional certificates of continuing education, a business card for Jesse Townsend, senior investigator for the medical board, and screenshots from the New York State of Education Department regarding petitioner's New York chiropractic license. At this time, we ask that Exhibit 2 be admitted for all purposes.
Dr. Hill, is there any reason you believe the board should not consider Exhibit 2 when deciding this case?
No.
Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Thank you. And what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 3 is a third memorandum from board staff dated October 22nd of 2024, which includes a second supplemental packet submitted by petitioner to support his petition, which consists of a New York State of Education Department of Registration renewal notice for his chiropractic license. At this time, we ask that Exhibit 3 be admitted for all purposes.
Slow down for me a little bit, Ms. Doherty.
I apologize.
Dr. Hill, is there any reason you believe the board should not consider Exhibit 3 when deciding this case?
No.
Exhibit 3 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to present a brief license history for petitioner.
Whenever you're ready.
The board issued petitioner's chiropractic license on January 7th of 1987. That license was surrendered to the board effective April 9th of 2016. On or about October 26th of 2015, the board filed a second amended accusation seeking discipline against petitioner's chiropractic license. The board alleged that on and between 2010 to 2015, petitioner engaged in 15 causes of discipline, which include but are not limited to: petitioner failed to ensure that the people under his supervision complied with the law and regulations governing the practice of chiropractic, in that his subordinates violated laws governing the dispensing and administration of controlled substance by administering testosterone to a patient without a valid prescription, and administered it to 3 patients when a physician was not present. Petitioner exceeded the scope of practice of chiropractic by allowing or failing to prevent a subordinate from violating laws governing the dispensing and administration of controlled substances. Additionally, petitioner engaged in gross negligence for not obtaining a reasonable and adequate patient history or performing reasonable patient evaluations by using appropriate examination methods on multiple patients. Petitioner failed to ensure accurate billing of chiropractic services by not complying with professionally and legally accepted methods. Petitioner committed acts involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, and corruption by not honoring a written agreement to refund money to a patient's widow in accordance with a payment plan. And he ended up issuing a refund check, but then canceling it. Additionally, petitioner exceeded the scope of chiropractic practice by holding himself out as a practicing hormonal consultant, only providing such services and not chiropractic services to certain patients, and furnishing and directing his colleagues to furnish dangerous drugs and controlled substances to his patients. In one instance, petitioner provided hormone replacement therapy to a patient instead of referring her to the appropriate medical professional, such as a gynecologist or endocrinologist. Lastly, petitioner engaged in conduct that endangered or was likely to endanger the health, safety, and welfare of at least 3 patients. As a result of this accusation, petitioner voluntarily surrendered his license based on the charges in the second amended accusation. On March 10th of 2016, the board issued a decision and order adopting that stipulated surrender of license and order, which became effective April 9th of 2016. The stipulated surrender included a cost recovery amount of $44,177.68. Additionally, in that stipulated surrender, it stated that all the charges and allegations contained in the second amended accusation shall be deemed true, correct, and admitted by petitioner when the board determines whether to grant or deny a petition for reinstatement. I'd like to point out for the board, as of September 16th, 2022, petitioner has paid the complete cost recovery amount to the board. On October 26th of 2022, the board held a hearing on petitioner's first petition for reinstatement. On December 8th of 2022, the board issued a decision denying petitioner's petition for reinstatement. On April 9th of 2024, petitioner filed a second petition for reinstatement of his chiropractic license. It is petitioner's burden to demonstrate that he is rehabilitated and safe to practice and that his license should be reinstated. Therefore, I have nothing further at this time, but will reserve the right to cross-examine petitioner today if he fails to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Dr. Hill, that brings us to your presentation of evidence. As I said at the beginning, you can testify, you can call other witnesses, or present additional documents. If you'd like to testify, please let me know and I can swear you in.
Okay, yes, I'd like to testify.
All right, I'll have you raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you can put your hand down if you'd like. And we have been using, and we can see your name on the screen, but I will still have you say and spell it for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Brent Hill, B-R-E-N-T-H-I-L-L.
All right, as I said at the beginning, this is your chance to explain in your own words what you believe the board members should know when making this decision, and you can begin whenever you're ready.
Well, I'd like to open up stating that I appreciate all of your time and your attention during this presentation of information and review. I pray that this information is taken seriously by all of the board members, as I trust that it is, and that it is looked at holistically in evaluating all issues as it surrounds the reinstatement of my license. The opening narrative I'd like to review, that is a document on page 6. If you'd like to follow along, I'll read that, and then throughout that, I'm going to be referring to different documents and page numbers to reference certain sections of that. The following is my narrative, which addresses my actions, my reflections on those actions, rehabilitation, and my sincere request for your considering me worthy of having my chiropractic license reinstated. On April 9th, 2016, I surrendered my license to the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. A copy of that decision with the second amended accusation follows. I became a licensed chiropractor in California in 1987. I began working in Modesto, California, where I grew up and lived most of my life. I have strong ties to the community there, especially my church. Religion is very important to me and my family. I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses and currently an elder in the church. When I first began practicing, I was performing traditional chiropractic manipulation therapy. In 1989, I opened Hill Chiropractic and ran successful practice over the years. During that time, my wife and I had 3 children, a daughter born in 1983, a second daughter born in 1986, and a son born in 1989. In the early 2000s, my daughter became sick. She lost weight, couldn't get out of bed, developed rashes and unbearable headaches, dizziness, and complained of constant pain. She was diagnosed with systemic lupus erythematosus and Sjogren's disorder in her early teens. As a father, I was devastated witnessing these autoimmune diseases affecting nearly every system in my once healthy, vibrant daughter. In 2002, I began attending seminars on nutrition and learning about therapies in integrative medicine, and I was especially interested in colonics, detox therapies, IV therapies, hormone treatments, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I became a chiropractor to serve and care for others, but now I was on a mission to save my daughter. Over time, the relief I saw many of these therapies provide my daughter was remarkable. After years of attending seminars and learning about products, nutritional therapies, and supplies, I knew I wanted to continue working in this area to share with others what I had learned. I contacted an attorney, Keith Carlson, in Southern California about opening a medical practice which would offer chiropractic services along with other complementary alternative medicine therapies. He advised me how to set up the corporation. I then found a medical director who oversaw patient care. This person changed over a couple of different years. Keith Carlson remained my attorney until the corporation closed in 2016 when I surrendered. We started the Hill Center for Integrative Medicine because we believe that the therapies we offer, we wanted to help other people with alternative treatments, just like alternative treatments helped my daughter. I've had 8 years to reflect and meditate on what happened that led to the accusations against me. While I take responsibility for the specific allegations and accusations in about more than just, it is more than just the individual allegations. It was about my business model. I know I set out with a good intention, but what I did was wrong, and I will never do it again. It's blur the lines between chiropractic and medicine. Attached, you will see documents that illustrate my actions since surrendering my license as far as employment, community activities, continuing education, professionally and academically, research conducted, and professional association memberships and affiliations. These have been included to show my earnest efforts in rehabilitation as well as maintaining and growing professionally. They also demonstrate that I have continued to seek and strive to be of service and support to others. I have maintained my requirements for continuing education for each year. I have been unlicensed. The accusations against me alleged issues with record keeping. I have taken 22 hours of coursework in this area and 25 hours in ethics. And I'd like to refer to pages 12 through 45 for the continuing education section, if you'd like to review that. And then also pages 133 through 138. Those are all current continuing education, showing that it far exceeded the basic minimum requirement for chiropractic. I realize through this process, I am truly passionate about medicine, so I enrolled in medical school. I am currently in my 3rd year through my studies. I enjoyed internal medicine and emergency medicine, After medical school, I intend to enroll in a residency program in emergency medicine and practice emergency medicine in the future. Should the board allow me to return to practice, my plan is to work part-time while I complete my medical training. There is a well-established chiropractor, Dr. Jeff Anderson in Modesto, California. He's been in practice for 28 years and previous chiropractic college instructor, and he has offered to employ me as a treating chiropractor if I have my license reinstated, as well as supervise overall my care. My sole duties in his practice will be chiropractic adjustments of patients. I will not supervise chiropractic assistants or other staff. Dr. Anderson has agreed to review my charts to ensure proper charting and record keeping and maintain treatment rendered are appropriate for the diagnosis and timely patient referrals are appropriately made. I included a letter of support from him with my petition. The board may ask me why I'm asking for my chiropractic license if I am in medical school and only intend to practice for a few years. There are a few reasons. I want to go back to helping people. As I write this narrative, I'm 65 years old. Throughout my life, my primary motivation has been to be of service to others, be it physically, helping their ills, spiritually, emotionally, encouraging the depressed, feeding the hungry, and chiropractic has been a big part of this. I also love being a chiropractor. I love my patients, and I want it to be a part of my life again. My desire to return to doing chiropractic and furthering my professional career in my later years of life will also provide me and my family, community, and help others instead of further going into debt and being burdened to society, needing low-income government assistance or assisting the assistance of others. My wife and I have always been ones to assist others in their time of need by volunteering in the community and to be a financial, physical, and emotional support to help others through charity organizations, because there is no more happiness than in giving than in receiving. But during this period of time, our income has averaged about $18,000 to $23,000 per year. My wife and I have had to borrow money from our children, my parents to pay for necessities. Friends and families have come to our aid and brought us groceries, provided meals and necessities to help us. We receive food and meals from food programs. My wife and I were also placed on Medi-Cal insurance. Now I'm on Medicare, this being 65. After receiving the denial of my request for reinstatement in 2022, almost exactly 2 years ago to the date, it was very disappointing. I took to heart what some of the board members had said during the hearing, and it really hit home with me. I felt that you were telling me that I can do better and that I needed to be at the standard of the profession in California. But I still needed to get straight with a few things. Instead of taking this as a defeat, I took it as a motivating kick in the pants from my chiropractic brothers. I've notified the State Board of New York State Board of my license surrender in California. You can see documents to that effect attached on pages 76 through 79, as well as pages 143 through 148. I have attended as well as volunteered in chiropractic continuing education programs and seminars. So with the New York State Board, they've been completely notified that the California license was surrendered. That's nearly 2 years ago that they were notified. There's a correspondence back in these documents here that I just mentioned in the letters, as well as continuing education, and their recent request for me to renew my license just came last Thursday. So that is one of the last documents that's in the package there. The past year has also blessed my wife and I with the cherished privilege and responsibility of becoming foster parents to a beautiful little toddler. She came to us at 16 months and is now 3 years old. Becoming foster parents in an emergency situation after her parents suffered a tragic situation has made us stop and count our blessings, really reflecting on how wonderful this privilege is to be a foster parent and a big part of this cute little toddler's life. Fortunately, her parents are doing better, and likely she will be reunited with them hopefully this next summer. I provided a document on page, which is page number 135, which shows that we're foster parents, or what is considered in Stanislaus County as resource family for the toddler. She's cute little blondie. She said, I think she said about 1 or 2 words when she came to us. Now she's yakking like crazy, and just a true joy to be around. Going back to the narrative, this past year and a half has made me get reconnected to chiropractic and see the strides being made as a profession. I sincerely hope I can have my license reinstated and to be a part of a profession that you have helped me realize I need to be. When all of the materials and my letters of explanation is considered, this is my formal request that upon your thorough review of my 8-year program of rehabilitation, along with my active professional and academic continued education and community service, I pray that you will allow me to resume this profession, which I have invested so much of my life that I truly love. So as I complete the narrative, I also wanted to make some further statements because I want to make sure that throughout this discussion today, that it is clear, that I provide clear and convincing evidence for the reinstatement, I pray that this evidence leaves no substantial doubt or hesitancy in anyone's mind. And please, if you have any questions or hesitancy before we're concluding today, please bring it up so that we can have that addressed. I said I'll be addressing all allegations collectively and answering those truthful as I did 2 years ago in the previous request for reinstatement. I am confident that once you are fully aware of all the circumstances leading up to and surrounding my license, you will come to the exact same conclusion that the Superior Court Judge Bessie came to once he received all of the accurate information I will be presenting to you. Let us first examine a couple of records from Stanislaus County Superior Court. The first page will be 142, if you'd like to refer to that page. Page 142 is a picture of a business card for Mr. Jesse Townsend. And at the time, he was a senior investigator. I don't know what his title is currently, but he was with the Medical Board of California. And as it relates to what I want to do is go through and show you the circumstances and the context of which all of these allegations and accusations have been made against me, because I want you to understand the full picture of what has transpired here. and why you see what you're seeing.
Mr. Hill,
Huh?
this is Dr. Paris and Judge
Yes.
Gavin, if I may. I think it's important to note that we do not want to relitigate your case and
right.
allegations,
Right.
and we would be interested and focused on your rehabilitative efforts. But I also am not sure that we need to go to review all of what's been submitted as the record. The board has every item that was submitted here and has reviewed it in detail. And so I think it may be more efficient if we can focus on the rehabilitative efforts and, since the last time we saw you. And my fear is that we appreciate the packet you submitted is very thorough, but it has been reviewed and it's on the record and it's in front of all of us.
Okay, I will take to heart your recommendation and greatly abbreviate the information. The only pages that I was going to refer to there from the court was that all of the criminal accusations that were also including practicing medicine without a license and prescribing and the controlled substance and those things were completely dismissed by the courts, not found not guilty, but it was dismissed because they found that the evidence had been altered. The Judge Bessie, you can see the document that's included that shows that he, that was on page 75, that he sealed the records because he felt that he didn't want any further damage done to me personally or professionally, because this was in the court system
Your
for
Honor,
over
I know it's
five
not
years.
typical for us to object, but I'm going to object as
Hang on, I just need one at a time. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your words, Ms. Doherty. Can you start over?
I said, Your Honor, I know it's not typical for us to object during a petition, but I'm going to object as to hearsay as to what a judge was thinking when they issued a seal or a protection order over arrest records, because that's not stated in that document. So it's just misstating the evidence in front of us.
To the extent that the comments about what Judge Bessie said constitute hearsay, the objection is sustained. However, hearsay comments are still permissible to the extent that they supplement or explain other direct evidence. Dr. Hill, you can continue with your testimony. As President Paris mentioned, the board has had an opportunity to review all of the documents within your petition packet and the supplemental packets, and it's particularly focused on any evidence of rehabilitation as opposed to evidence that the original allegations against you were in some way flawed or faulty. With that said, you can continue with your testimony as you see fit.
Okay, but just a brief explanation why I was bringing that out in the first place, because last time it was very frustrating to have a closing statement that I was sort of not, or still saying things that were untrue or not acknowledging. And the only reason why I was establishing that those I want to be totally forthright in showing the circumstances of how all those accusations came about, but I also want to show that I'm a good person, and I have never had any intention, and even more so, no intention of hurting anybody or causing any harm, or even coming close to blurring the line between medicine and chiropractic. I think the last couple of years has even made it more evident to me, you know, how I have to be reflecting on my own actions and my thoughts, and how my judgment is. And looking at that, I take responsibility. For what has happened, and recognizing that I won't be doing any of that anymore. If you knew me personally, you'd come to your own conclusions about me. You know, that I am a good person, and that I am a good person for society, and that it's okay for me for you to allow me to be a chiropractor and practice again. Very much so. And I don't know what else that I can say. I know I had a lot of stuff to say, but I don't want to drone on and on. But this has been an extremely hard 8 years for me and my wife. And I want that to be behind me and us, so we can move forward. And I truly hope that the board, I really trust in this board, that they will allow me to practice chiropractic again. Truly do. I don't have anything else to say. And I pray that I don't regret saying any, you know, afterwards, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I'll now give Ms. Doherty, followed by the board members, a chance to ask you any questions they have. I realize it did not establish a quorum of the board at the outset of the hearing. We'll establish that by the roll call questioning. But first, Ms. Doherty, if you have any questions, you can ask whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Hill, can you tell me what you currently do for a living?
What I currently do for a living, I am a student. I also help to manage a beauty salon. Did some maintenance in there before.
When you say you're a student, you're a medical student, correct?
Yes.
And do you attend medical school in person?
Yes.
Okay. And where is your medical school located?
Well, the school itself is currently located in St. Vincent's in the Caribbean. But while I was in attendance for the basic science was during COVID. And so every school in the world, medical school in the world, and most universities were online, as was I.
Okay. And then you also stated you manage a beauty salon. Do you hold any licenses with the Board of Cosmetology?
As a, not as a stylist, but as an owner, yes.
And do you know what that license is called?
The exact title, I don't know, but there's a specific one just for owners, as opposed to like you don't want this guy doing your hair.
And did you disclose this discipline to the board of Cosmetology?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you one way or the other on that. That was exactly the timing on that.
And since the date you surrendered your license, do you have any criminal convictions that the board would be unaware of?
Absolutely zero.
And do you currently have any pending civil or criminal charges against you?
Absolutely zero.
Okay.
These are the only, the ones that were listed and dismissed by the Superior Court of Stanislaus County. Have the only time I've ever been arrested was that right there. And those were dismissed. They weren't. Okay.
And in your petition, you stated that you made New York's Board of Chiropractic aware of your California discipline, correct?
Correct.
And you made them aware of that discipline on June 9th of 2023, correct?
I'd have to look at the exact date on that.
Does it sound right that you made them aware in 2023 of your discipline?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you wait so many years to notify New York of your California discipline?
That was brought to my attention during the previous hearing, so I went ahead and took care of that right away.
Okay. And when's the last time you actually worked as a chiropractor in California?
Probably February of 2016, January, something like that. It was prior to the surrender of my license.
And when's the last time that you worked as a chiropractor in New York?
Probably in the early 90s. Because I only did volunteer work back then.
And do you believe you did anything wrong to warrant discipline from the board?
Do I believe that I did anything wrong? Yes, there were areas that I definitely did the wrong thing.
And can you tell me what those areas were?
Well, they're the same areas that I commented on before and that are in the records. Let's see. I think it's actually in the document, page 80. And 81.
And can you tell me what document you're referring to?
The BCE document that was page 000080.
Ms. Doherty, just for the record, that appears to be the first page of the board's decision on the previous petition for reinstatement, which is at A84 within Case Center.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And Dr. Hill, help me understand, do you understand why the board disciplined you based off the acts that were alleged in the second amended accusation?
Do I understand the reason why?
Or do you understand why those were violations of the law?
I understand why the accusations were a violation, could be a violation.
And so I want to briefly go into the underlying discipline to understand how you've made changes. So just to clarify, the business that you were working at the time the accusation was filed was called the Hill Center, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at the Hill Center, you were practicing integrated medicine as well as providing chiropractic services. Would that be correct?
So I was providing chiropractic services.
Okay. And did you also provide additional services outside of chiropractic services?
I do hold a certificate in colonic therapy, so occasionally I do colonics, yes.
And there's no other services that you were providing?
The services within my chiropractic scope, doing exams, consultations. At the time I held my x-ray certificate, so on a very rare occasion I would take x-rays also. Perform therapy on patients as needed, depending upon the staffing.
And you also engaged in a program with patients called the Hill Diet, right?
The Hill Diet?
Correct.
What do you mean engaged in that?
You provided patients treatment through the Hill Diet, correct?
That was something that was provided at the office.
And were you involved in that diet program?
I did a short deal where I did lose some weight on it while I was a patient on it.
Okay. And do you understand that among the allegations that resulted in the surrender of your license were allegations that you were providing healthcare treatment that exceeded the scope of your chiropractic license?
Those were the exact accusations of the criminal charges that were also all dismissed in the criminal court system because of falsified evidence that was also provided for by the same person to the medical court. Yes, I do recognize that.
Okay, so just so I understand you, today you do not agree that you engaged in practices outside the scope of your chiropractic license?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's been proven in the court. The criminal court has already proven that, so I don't need to answer for that because it's already
and just to
proven.
clarify, there was never a criminal trial, correct?
Criminal trial?
Correct.
We had over 5 years of hearing on this. My attorney had what was called a pitches motion.
Let me just interrupt 1 second, Dr. Hill. You'll have a chance to clarify by way of additional testimony, but on cross-examination, it's important to listen to the question asked and try to just provide an answer to that question. So the question was simply, did you ever go through a criminal trial related to these allegations?
We had preliminary hearing.
So is it a no, there was no trial?
We had a pre-trial, and then at that, everything was dismissed.
Okay, so I take it that there was no trial, is that right?
Correct, because by the time...
Hang on.
Okay.
Simply a yes or no is adequate. Thank you.
Correct.
Ms. Doherty, you can proceed.
Thank you. And additionally, you engaged in improper billing. So you billed for services on dates in which the services weren't performed, correct?
The accusation I think that you're referring to is the one where the person believed that they didn't get a refund. Is that the one that you're referring to?
I guess let me restate my question. Do you believe that during your practice, do you believe that you properly billed your patients?
Yes.
And can you explain to me why it's important to properly bill patients?
For many reasons. One is that it's a primary agreement between you and the patient. To uphold that agreement is honoring your word.
And if today you do not believe that you provided healthcare treatment that exceeded the scope of your chiropractic license, then what assurances can you provide the board that you won't engage in those acts again?
Well, I know that I didn't perform medical treatment, and it's been shown that I didn't. And so I know for a fact that I won't be providing that outside of any scope of license to practice.
Okay. And if your license was reinstated, you plan to work as a chiropractor in California, correct?
Correct.
And in your petition, you stated that if it was reinstated, you would work for Jeff Anderson. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Jeff Anderson is a chiropractor currently at Hill Chiropractic, correct?
He owns the practice, correct.
And Hill Chiropractic took over your prior business, correct?
No. Jeff R. Anderson, Inc. operates as Hill Chiropractic, DBA as Hill Chiropractic. So nobody took over anybody's practice. There was no practice to take over after everything was shut down. There was nothing. So there was no transfer of ownership or anything. He has his own practice. He just does, he has the DBA because of the what do they call that? The goodwill or the good value of the name within the community for so many years. So he chose to do that, and he's a good guy. So I'm happy that it's working out for him.
Okay. And so just to make sure I understood you, it's your understanding that Mr. Anderson kept Hill, your last name, on the name of the practice or the DBA of the practice due to the reputation it had in the community?
Yeah, so when he started his own practice under his own corporate name, then he took the DBA of Hill Chiropractic because of the good reputation it's had for 30 some odd years within the Modesto community.
And do you currently have any ownership interest at all in Hill Chiropractic?
Zero. I don't think it would be legal for me to own anything related to the chiropractic practice, would it?
And in your discussions with Mr. Anderson, are you aware of the services that he offers at his practice?
I'm fully aware of the services he offers at his chiropractic office.
And are you aware he's still offering the Hill diet to patients?
He offers some vitamins and minerals, but I don't think he calls it a Hill diet.
And what guarantees could you provide the board that you would not practice outside the scope of your license and potentially injure patients if you go back to work in the exact same environment you were working before?
Well, I don't know if any exact environment that I was working before exists today. The practice that Mr. Anderson or Dr. Anderson has isn't like that practice at all. So his practice is pretty much straight chiropractic.
And in reviewing your character reference letters, you provided a letter by an individual named Isaac Del Toro. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And for your reference, as well as the board, that's located at Board Bates number 72 and Case Center 76. Can you tell me who Mr. Del Toro is?
He's a chiropractor that works for Dr. Anderson.
Okay. And in Mr. Del Toro's letter, he states that we have patients, when referring to you, we have patients in common who respect and speak of him highly. Can you tell me how you still have patients in common with Mr. Del Toro if you're not practicing?
I had no input on his artistic flexibility in what he included in his letter. The only thing I can imagine is that he probably saw people that I saw in the past. I don't have existing patients, and I haven't had existing patients since I surrendered my license in 2016. So I in no way, shape, or form in chiropractic practice. So.
And Dr. Hill, do you understand the dangers and harm you cause patients by working outside the scope of your license?
I am very familiar with the possible dangers that could have arisen by any practice outside of the scope.
And can you tell me what the dangers you're aware of are?
Well, it's particularly hypothetical that anytime you're practicing outside the scope, that you're less expertise at doing whatever it is that you're outside the scope of.
Okay. And sitting here today, do you believe that you placed any patients in danger or caused any harm to patients?
Based on the reality that no patient was ever harmed, I would have to conclude that there wasn't any harm done to any of the patients while I was practicing the patients that were under my care in any way, shape, or form. There were accusations that you see, but there's never been any establishment that those accusations were true or that anybody was ever harmed.
And as a chiropractor, if your license was reinstated, you're responsible for anyone working under your supervision, correct?
Anybody under my supervision and within my scope of practice, you're correct.
And do you agree that you were responsible for your employees back at the time, during the time that the allegations were alleged?
The actions of my employees that I was under the supervision of that was within the scope of my practice, yes.
But also the other employees that worked for you outside the scope of your practice, right?
That I was responsible for their administrative functions, but as far as their professional performance, that was directed, if it was outside of my scope, it was directed by somebody that it was under their scope of practice.
And you provided numerous records of continuing education to the board. Did you take any classes in billing?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell me what you learned in those classes?
Well, on how to properly bill. I know there were some classes that I took from Sean Steele that were going over proper billing of personal injury cases, different codes that were being used, different diagnostic coding related to procedures and EM codes, those types of things.
And did you take any classes in ethics?
Yes.
And can you tell me what you learned from those classes?
The most recent classes that I took on ethics through California, Cal were very much to the point as far as how to be practicing within our scope and to be practicing as professionals within our community. They were very well addressing the issues of the day.
And in taking those ethics classes, you mentioned they discussed practicing within your scope. Did you learn anything that you would now do differently when practicing from that class?
I think the biggest thing that I learned from the ethics class was the strides that chiropractic is taking as far as professionalism overall, which impressed me the most out of that class. I think that was my biggest takeaway, and how it's not only extending that, but we're, just way back when chiropractic everybody was isolated, but to look at how working as a team within the healthcare team has really become something possible that is being done in an ethical way and being expressed in an ethical way to be a part of that.
And when you surrendered your license to the board back in 2016, did you review that stipulation prior to signing it?
I did, and the circumstances, I don't know, do you want to know any circumstances surrounding that, or does that suffice?
It was just a yes or no question of if you reviewed
Okay,
it.
yes.
Okay. And when you reviewed that stipulation, did you see the term in there that if you were to petition for reinstatement or reapplication, that the allegations in the second amended accusation would be deemed true?
I likely read that, but it didn't register with me at that time because there was so much stuff going on at that legal moment in time that really was not as probably as impactful as it should have been. Looking back with hindsight, should have let it just go through the process of the hearing at that time and have that come to the conclusion. But contrary to my legal advice at the time, which was being provided by my malpractice carrier in CMIC, the advice was to surrender. So I took the legal advice.
Okay. And when you review that accusation, the second amended accusation sitting here today, do you agree that any of those allegations are true?
looking at it as a whole, the patients that were being referred to were medical patients under the direction of a medical physician. They weren't my patients. So it's very difficult to take responsibility for the care or the results of the care for somebody else's patients that were never your own.
And so would it be fair to say then you don't take responsibility for the actions alleged in that second amended accusation?
As a document, as a whole, those patients were somebody else's patients. They were seen within the practice that I also worked at, but they were somebody else's patients. They were the medical doctor's patients. In fact, they were several medical doctors' patients because the one patient that was referred to as ST in that document was a different medical director, a different physician than Dr. Zeller, who was the physician at the time that the office was raided. So at one point, they were medical patients under the direction of the medical doctor. In fact, the medical board had addressed that patient, ST, completely with that physician. And not until years later was that amended accusation even bringing me into the whole issue. I was never even part of it.
If I can, the question was a yes or no.
Oh, okay. No.
So just to clarify, sitting here today, when you look at the allegations in the second amended accusation, do you not take responsibility for the allegations as alleged? Yes or no?
No.
Your Honor, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. I do want to check in with our reporter and see if she needs a brief break before we continue with board member questions. Ms. Barnard.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm good to keep going.
Okay, thank you. I'll then invite the board members to ask questions by roll call, starting with President Paris. If you have any questions for the petitioner, you can ask them whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge Gavin, and thank you, Mr. Hill, for coming in front of us again. And I really appreciate all the work you've done in your rehabilitative efforts. I have two questions. I'm wondering if you could just briefly kind of describe what in your mind establishes a doctor-patient relationship.
A doctor-patient relationship is one that the doctor is establishing that patient's care, supervising the patient's care, utilizing the evaluation of the patient, coming to the conclusion of a diagnosis plan for the patient, and interacting with staffing, that supportive staff that help to carry through with that plan that has been outlined for the patient.
And did you interact with patients ST, AH, SP, etc.?
There were two patients in that list that I did, and the ST I never had any interaction with at all. The other two I had taken consultation history for the medical doctor. As far as the plan or diagnosis, none of that recommendations.
And you took that under the impression this was as an unlicensed practitioner or under the role of your DC license?
At the time, I was doing a consultation like I would do with any other chiropractic patient. going through the different systems reviews, and just like we're taught in chiropractic college. Looking back on it, this is probably the biggest area that I probably slapped myself for and really, really regret is even being involved with taking those histories for the medical doctor and then giving that, relaying that information to them. And that's something that I wholeheartely regret doing because, I wasn't ever involved with any of the other aspect of the workup of the patient. And at the time, I thought I was helping and I thought it was within my scope, but looking back, I see that wasn't appropriate.
Understood. Oftentimes, we utilize other methods to assure public protection and patient safety for reinstatements, et cetera. And those are things like a special purpose examination, and that's the way for us that the MBC utilizes, and it helps post-licensure and testing clinical competency. And we use something called ethics and boundaries assessment services, items like that. And I'm wondering if your license were to be reinstated with additional conditions, is that something that would be acceptable to you?
Absolutely. Whatever you feel would be beneficial to myself as a professional, beneficial, a reassurance to the board. I'm completely open to that.
And then I just want to kind of get a sense of kind of where your frame of mind is in asking you or requiring you to participate in those additional conditions. If that were to be the case, how would you enter into those with the frame of mind of rehabilitating for violations to the regulations from your surrender that you don't believe that you actually committed? Does that make sense? I'm trying to get a sense of, I'm hearing, and unless I'm misinterpreting, I'm hearing through Ms. Doherty's questioning that you don't really believe that you committed those violations. And I hear you that, they were dismissed in court, but yet you surrendered your license, and here we are having to decide for public protection on how to have assurances that you're safe to practice, and we see it from a rehabilitative perspective, right, because you surrendered your license based on accusations. Right. I assume my impression from hearing you speak, and so I'm concerned that we would assign perhaps some other conditions for reinstatement if it were to go that way, or in our discussions, and yet your frame of mind, I'm hearing that how or do you believe what would you be rehabilitated from if you don't believe that you committed the violations?
Well, I think therein lies the conundrum. I think on the one aspect of the actual hardcore, legal aspect of it, it's already been proven that I wasn't involved with it. On my own ethics, my own, how I view this, looking back on it, how could I have not allowed myself to get into this situation to begin with? That's how I'm looking at it. How do I avoid circumstances that could be misconstrued by myself or by anybody else of what I'm doing, and not to get involved with anything like that. I am rehabable. I'm a good guy. You can trust that I will be a good chiropractor again, and that if you look at my overall history with the board for decades, nothing, and then all of a sudden everything blows up. And I know we didn't want to go and examine all these other issues with the court and stuff, but I think in context of things, it has to be looked at holistically too. But at the end of the day, you can be reassured that I'm rehabilitated and that I can safely be reinstated as a chiropractor. There's no doubt, and I hope. I know these brief meetings here at a hearing is no way to get to know somebody personally, but if somebody knows me personally, they would come to their own conclusions about me and my intentions and my personal ethics.
Thank you. Appreciate your responses, and I have no further questions.
Thank you, President Paris. We'll move then to Vice President Dr. Adams. Any questions for the petitioner?
I do. Thank you for your responses. I just have a couple of things. So in reviewing your packet, again, Mr. Hill, I'm struck with, having been a part of the last petition hearing when you came before us in 2022. There were some challenges that we had as a board because we're reviewing a packet, we're reviewing allegations, we're reviewing things, and then there's admittance to those things. And then in the nature of our last meeting, it became apparent to us that you had a different view of those allegations and a view of the choice you made to surrender your license, and that you're admitting to things but kind of not admitting to things, and that was a challenge for us. Now we're circling back to this situation again. So what I'm finding myself, and I think Dr. Paris hit on this as well, is our responsibility is the protection of the public, and to, as best as we can with the information that we have, to ascertain whether you are a threat to public safety. As a practitioners, we give you a license, which we take that very serious. And no one here doubts your desire or your passion or your assertion of what the events and the veracity of those events. But we're still stuck with a situation where when you're dealing with rehabilitation, we have to make a judgment ourselves based on what we have. The challenge that I'm having, and hopefully you can help me with this, is as the Deputy Attorney General asked you very succinctly that when you made petition to have your license reinstated, that the Second Amendment of allegations was then deemed to be true and accurate. Your answer to her when she asked you that and pointed out to you was not a yes, but a no. Do I have those facts right, Deputy Attorney General? That the answer was a no?
That
to
is
that
correct.
question? Okay. So, Mr. Hill, what I'm wanting to get to the bottom of, and I think I'm not going to speak for all the board members, but I think we all kind of want to get to this, is that, I guess first let me establish, were you of sound mind when you agreed to the stipulations of the surrender of your license? Can I have a yes or no answer?
Looking at things retrospectively,
Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill.
oh,
I'm not interested in, I really just want to know, were you of sound mind when you made that decision? I understand there was a lot going on in your life, but when you made the decision, were you of sound mind? Had you been rendered incompetent? Were you incompetent psychiatrically in any way?
no, I wasn't.
Okay.
Psychiatrically.
So the answer to the question, were you of sound mind when you agreed to the stipulation of the surrender of your license?
Yes.
Yes or no? Okay, yes. All right. When you submitted for petition to the board for your license to be reinstated in 2022, were you of sound mind?
Yes.
Do you understand that when you submitted for that petition, as Deputy Attorney General asked you, that upon doing so, you then accept the veracity and truth of the allegations within the Second Amendment?
Yes.
Yes. So I know the last time you were here, you were talking about being reserved and somewhat hesitant to give answers, direct answers to us, because you were concerned about perjuring yourself. And I'm asking you now that if you were of sound mind when you submitted for your petition the first time in 2022 and submitted your petition this second time now, that you understand that the allegations in the amendment that you answered no to Deputy Attorney ALJ is a false statement. Because by submitting that petition, you agreed to that and accepted those as true, as those facts as true, which we then as a board can base our questioning and our decision-making on you. If we don't have that, then how can you expect us to make an accurate judgment? Because you're not then being culpable or rehabilitating for those things. Do you understand the conundrum that we are in as a board?
Yes.
If you're not willing to acknowledge that and accept that?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to simply ask you again, do you want to amend your answer to Deputy Attorney ALJ today regarding the Second Amendment allegations upon which this petition that you submitted for today for our review and our ultimate decision-making process? Do you stand by your no statement, or are you going to own and accept the allegations that were set forth in the Second Amendment?
I am going to own and accept what I signed when I registered for this reinstatement.
And what answer would that be to Deputy Attorney General?
The answer would be yes.
Okay. Now that you've accepted, in my opinion, I want to have a follow-up question, and that is this, okay? What assurances can you give the board today? I mean, you're now admitting this right now. We're an hour and a half almost into this entire thing. So what assurances can you give us that we can trust now that it took all this time to get to this point? Because there's been a lot of double talk already today, and now you're admitting it. Do you kind of get where I'm coming from here?
Yes, Dr. Adams, I do.
So what assurances can you give to the board that we can take into our discussion that's going to assure us that you're not a risk for the public? Because these are serious allegations.
Dr. Hill, this is ALJ Gavin. I just want to note, it looks like your camera may have gone off. I'll just invite you to turn that back on. Are you with us, Dr. Hill?
This is the moderator. He might not be. Checking.
All right, thank you. So the moderator will just pause a moment and see if Dr. Hill has in some way dropped off of the video conference. Why don't we do this? Let's just go off the record, Ms. Barnard, while we wait for Dr. Hill.
Judge Gavin, if this might take a few minutes, is it okay to give board members and staff a quick 5-minute bio break while we wait to get him set up again?
Of course, yes, that's appropriate. For the moderator,
Possibly have longer.
Okay, let's a 10-minute bio break. That would get us to it's 1 minute till. That would get us to 11:10.
That's fine with me. If you want to come back at 11:10 for the moderator, is that adequate?
We have a disconnect. It'll take as long as it takes to reach him.
So for the, I think what we're saying is no one will be expected to do anything productive until 11:10, although when we return, it may take a bit longer. So we'll be on break until 11:10, and then we'll reassess at that time.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Judge Gavin.
At 11:10 on my clock, and I'm just checking in with our moderator. It looks like perhaps Dr. Hill is not rejoined, but let me check with you, Mr. Moderator.
Dr. Hill has not rejoined the meeting just yet. Hold on, please. Looks like we're working on an alternative connection, a call-in perhaps.
Okay. Ms. Barnard, do we have you back?
Yes, Judge.
This is Sabina again. Sorry.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Are we still off the record, or are we still not recording?
I believe the recording is on, although the court reporter is off the record. So there's the board recording, the DCA recording for the whole meeting, but then separate from that, there's an official record made by the court reporter of the petition hearing. So we're off the record for the court reporter, but the meeting is still being recorded. It appears from my screen.
I guess I just wanted to clarify. I don't know what the circumstances are. It's my understanding. I just called the executive officer because I just got a little concerned about the petitioner.
So, Vice Chair, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to make sure that what you're saying, you want publicly recorded on video, because it's my understanding that this is still being video recorded.
Okay. I was just expressing some concern. That's all. That I didn't want to. I hope I wasn't overstepping my bounds as a questioner.
This is the moderator. We are definitely recording via WebEx.
Yeah. I hesitate to discuss the proceedings in any way in the absence of the petitioner. So I don't want to ignore your comments, Vice President Adams, but I feel I'm duty bound to do so.
Enough said. I'll mute.
All right. Welcome, caller 3. Will you please unmute? You may need to dial *6 in order to unmute. Caller 3, is this Dr. Hill? Welcome, caller 3.
Hello?
Is this Dr. Hill?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed. Is this Dr. Hill?
Okay. Yes.
All right, welcome.
All right, welcome back, Dr. Hill. This is ALJ Gavin. It appears that you're now calling in.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know what happened in your absence was that Vice President Adams finished his question. We then waited for a moment to hear your response, and not hearing any, we concluded that you had dropped off of the hearing. We went off the record. We took a brief break, and nothing else substantive happened in your absence. What I'll do now is we'll go back on the record. I will ask the court reporter to, before we do that, I'll ask her to orient you with the last question that was asked that she got on the record, and then we'll go back on the record and see if you have an answer to that question and proceed from there. Ms. Barnard, can I trouble you to, before we go back on, just to read the last question that Vice President Adams asked, just to orient the witness and everyone else?
Of course, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Question by Dr. Adams. So what assurance can you give to the board that we can take into our discussion that's going to assure us that we're not a risk for the public? Because these are serious allegations.
Ms. Barnard, are you ready to go back on?
Yes.
All right. And Dr. Hill, are you ready to go back on?
Yes.
And Dr. Adams, are you ready to go back on?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty, are you ready to go back on?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you.
Very good. We are back on the record. I will just briefly explain that when Dr. Adams asked his last question, we waited for a response from the petitioner, Dr. Hill. Hearing none, we concluded he had accidentally disconnected. We took a brief break, and he is now reconnected. Before we went back on this record, I invited the court reporter to read back the last full question that was asked. Dr. Hill has now heard that question, and Dr. Hill, if you're able to provide an answer to that question, you can do so whenever you're ready.
Okay. I think it's a great question, specifically, relating to what I'm trying to have my license reinstated. I think looking at my past record of who I am and what I've done over the years of the 65 years of my life, looking at the recent background checks from the foster care Child Protective Services background checks on me and my wife, looking at what type of person I am in order to safely place a child with us, looking at just me globally. I know for a fact that you can rest assured that I'm going to be safe. With the public will be safe in my hands as a chiropractor. I have no ill intentions towards anybody, even folks that have done not so nice things. That I've forgiven them in my mind and in my heart, and that you absolutely can get that sense about me if you were to get to know me. And I hope that sometime professionally in the future that we do.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Dr. Adams, any additional questions for the petitioner?
Just kind of a final sum up. Mr. Hill, just understand that unfortunately, as board members, we don't have that luxury of getting to know someone on a deeper level. We have to go with the information that we have before us. And I appreciate your answer, and I also want to acknowledge the fact that I think that you made a huge step today on this path of finally acknowledging and admitting the allegations that are before the board for us to consider. And you've given me and all of us a lot to consider. So I have no further questions. Thank you.
I so much appreciate the board's sincere look over everything. And I have so much trust in you guys. And I'm probably talking out of turn. I'll shut up and wait my turn.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adams. And Dr. Hill, we have 3 other board members who may have questions. Proceeding alphabetically, we get next to Board Member Cruz. If you have any questions for the petitioner, you can ask whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, making sure. So thank you, Mr. Hill, for joining us today. And I do want to kind of call out a couple of acknowledgements. Well, one, I want to commend you for the foster care of kind of the young girl. It is incredibly commendable, and I believe more qualified people such as yourself definitely need to get into that. I also want to commend you on kind of the path you've taken on honestly engaging with the chiropractic community or past chiropractic
I'm
community.
sorry, I need to interrupt. I have the last part. The last bit I have is I also want to commend you on sort of the path you've taken on, and then it became garbled.
This is the moderator. I think I can solve some of this feedback issue. I may need to mute Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill, when you're ready to unmute, just dial *6 again.
Okay.
Let's try this. Go ahead, please.
And to continue that note, I also wanted to commend the path, kind of getting back on the path of reconnecting with your chiropractic, I'd say, acquaintances of what that path would look like if you were to kind of get back into practice. Just honestly, having that in place and having that acknowledged and talked through kind of among those involved is very much a step sometimes folks forget when they engage with us at this point. So I do want to acknowledge the different types of work you put in. Some questions that I have. First, I wanted to know, similar to, we had asked a question, and tell me if someone has already asked it. Is the medical, similar to how the state of New York was made aware of, say, the surrender of your chiropractic license, is the med school aware as well?
Can you repeat that last sentence for me?
Yes, is the, similar to how the state of New York was made aware of the chiropractic license surrender, is the med school aware as well?
So Dr. Hill, if you press *6, and then you can answer that question. Dr. Hill, we're not hearing any response from you.
Please give Dr. Hill just a moment. He's on a telephone connection. Not only does he have a delay, but he will have to go through a prompt in order to unmute by dialing *6. I see that he's unmuted now.
Okay.
We should hear him in just a second.
I don't think you can.
Dr. Hill, are you with us?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I had mentioned,
said that that was a great question because the medical school absolutely wanted to know, my overall status. And so they do know 100% transparency of everything that has transpired. They also require us to do life scans as well as, all the regular fingerprinting stuff and all that before we start rotations in the hospital. So they're fully aware of all of the situation with surrendering the license.
And I have another question. If around, you mentioned, I wasn't sure, did you say that you were an owner or a manager of a salon?
I am the owner and the manager.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to ask that is, do you... the reason I wanted to ask that was because some of the items that were that were addressed was, I want to call it kind of the vicarious liability and kind of professional misconduct of if staff is acting out of scope, or if you have the responsibility of knowing what staff is up to. Do you feel as though your experience as both owner and manager of the salon is giving you the experience to, I would say, better keep an eye on things and manage, and I would say just more of that business life experience?
Well, I hear where you're coming from, because in the realm of the beauty salon business, the board regularly stops in for inspections of one type or another. So we're very diligent about making sure that everybody has their current license posted, that their workstations are kept clean, that if they have dirty items, that those are segregated away from any other areas or in properly designated containers. So yes, you're absolutely right. It has its own set of regulations, for sure.
Yeah. I think kind of more where I was leaning more towards is that in preparation, if you were to get back your license, kind of step into that world again, I imagine where some of the concerns were before on kind of having staff kind of act out of scope, that you have this ongoing experience right now of, I would say, managing exactly that. So I wanted to kind of acknowledge that. Another question that I have is, what is your plan after getting your, I'm not sure if it's going to be an MD or a DO, but you mentioned in the packet that you will be, you would hope to be kind of be a practitioner while going through med school. But once you get that MD or DO, what is your plan?
Well, I've still got a few years ahead of me on the medical training aspect of it. But I guess the big picture of things, which has been very evident along the journey, is that in medicine, there's, as chiropractors, growing up from immature pups as chiropractors, we know our value. We know our, what we do with patients and the phenomenal results that we get. And at some point, we hope in our mind that in the medical profession that we're looked at as a viable aspect for care. And, well, maybe they're bad mouthing chiropractic in medical school or whatever like that. And, sadly enough, it's not even mentioned. Chiropractic isn't even mentioned.
Is your plan after med school to continue towards kind of an MD practice or DO practice, or do you plan on, essentially I'm wondering if you plan on continuing being a chiropractor while having an MD. Is that your intention?
Well, because chiropractic is one of the most powerful tools that you can ever attain as far as healthcare goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you so much. Right. No more questions on my end.
Thank you, Board Member Cruz. That takes us next to Dr. Daniels. Any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, I do. Thank you. One of my, Dr. Hill, you're currently still in med school, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so on page BCE 000038, you have a certificate of attendance that says Brent Anthony Hill, MD.
Let's see. Oh, yeah.
But you're not an MD right now, correct?
I am not an MD, and that's the way that they, with the American College of Emergency Physicians, they issue everybody's certificate with an MD or DO.
Okay, so you didn't correct them.
There's no way in their system to correct it. I had asked them because I'm not an MD, and they said that there's no way in their system to change that unless it's a DO or an MD. And I said, well, I'm neither, but. And
it didn't, okay. And so you had mentioned kind of the hardship and the very low income. I'm just curious as to how you're affording to pay for med school.
Well, I'm going to one of the most affordable medical schools that's highly accredited, as well as receiving scholarships for being an old geezer going to medical school.
So you're doing it through scholarships?
Scholarship, and my dad has been giving me some money, but the school that I'm going to is very reasonably priced compared to most schools.
Okay. And then in your statement, you said that it was your business model that was the problem and not your thought process. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I just had one final question, which I'm kind of on the tails of Dr. Adam in a conundrum about how to even ask it. In the accusation, one of the accusations was that there was no height and weight mentioned in the documents, the notes. And the accusation is that you were treating out of scope of chiropractic with hormones, etc., and a diet, which to me would lead me to think that height and weight would be number one to record. But with, I believe your statement is that those accusations are not true. But as chiropractors, we're still supposed to record height and weight, correct?
Correct. And in that, I failed in that area. That's for sure. That should have been done as when recording the information for those patients. You're correct.
Okay. And then just one last question.
And that's absolutely not going to be done in the future. I mean, it will be done in the future. The inclusion of it will be.
I understand. Thank you. And then just one last question. It's been about 8, maybe almost 9 years since you've practiced. Is it your belief that I know you have a a practice to go to and be monitored by. Is it your belief that you are right now, today, 100% ready to walk back into a practice?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels. That takes us to our final questioner, Board Member Sweet. If you have any questions, you can ask them when you're ready.
I actually do not have any further questions, but I thank you for your time today, Mr. Hill.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sweet.
All right, thank you. Ms. Doherty, any follow-up questions?
Your Honor, I have no follow-up. Thank you.
Any board members have any follow-up questions? Right, hearing none. Dr. Hill, is there any final testimony you'd like to offer before closing argument?
Before closing argument, or should I just do the closing argument?
Well, if you have closing remarks to make, just hold off just one moment. I just need to confirm.
Okay. Yeah. No.
All right. And I think you told me off the record you have no additional witnesses or additional documentary evidence to offer. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. That takes us then to closing argument. Ms. Doherty, I realize you're not here in an adversarial capacity. However, if you would like to make any closing remarks, you may do so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would ask that the board consider petitioner's entire petition and supporting documents, but really pay attention to petitioner's testimony today and consider his lack of responsibility taken for those allegations and as a consideration to see if petitioner is fully rehabilitated to have his chiropractic license at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Dr. Hill, if you'd like to make any closing remarks, you may do so whenever you're ready.
Give him just a moment. I muted his microphone again to reduce feedback. You may dial *6 to unmute Dr. Hill if you haven't already.
Did that work?
You are back. Welcome.
Okay, great. Again, I want to thank everybody for their patience. Few glitches at the beginning and in the middle of this meeting, but I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding of how important this is to me, but I also recognize how important it is for each of you to make very conscious decisions in helping to keep the chiropractic profession and the folks of California safe and healthy. When you consider reinstating me, as I stated, I am ready to go back to practice. If you said tomorrow, I'll be back in practice tomorrow. I've kept myself in good physical shape. Academically, I've been keeping myself very active and keeping my mind, focused on healthcare, chiropractic, and many different aspects, doing research that has been published. And so I am ready in so many ways to get back into chiropractic and back into practice to help folks. I also hope that that my heartfelt sincerity has come across today. That you can rest assured that reinstating my license is one that you can be happy with, and that you'll have no regrets over as far as that's concerned. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and I trust each and every one of your efforts and always making chiropractic great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. In a moment, I will ask whether the matter is submitted. By that, I mean, are you satisfied you've had a full opportunity to present all evidence and make all argument on your behalf? Ms. Doherty, for the people, is the matter submitted?
The matter is submitted, Your Honor. Thank you.
And Dr. Hill, for you, is the matter submitted?
Yes.
All right, then the matter is submitted, the case is closed, and we are off the record. Dr. Hill, don't hang up just yet. I need to give our court reporter a chance to see if she needs any words or terms spelled by you. Ms. Barnard, I was keeping track, and there are several names and other terms that I have prepared to go for you. One that I don't have, though, I may need from the petitioner, is Sean Steele, I think was the name that you used. Dr. Hill, can you spell that, please?
I think it's SHAWNSTEEL.
Okay.
I think that's how Sean spells his name.
STEELE.
Oh, with an LE at the end. Okay.
All right. I don't know who chimed in with that help, but thank you for that. Ms. Barnard, were there any other words or terms that you need spelled?
Yes, if you'll give me just a moment. That was one of them. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. I'll inventory the ones that I've got tracked, and then if there's anything else that you need, you let us know. I've got Jesse Townsend. I've got systemic lupus erythematosus. I've got Sjögren's disorder. I've got Keith Carlson, Jeff Anderson, the last name Bessie, Isaac Del Toro, and Zeller. Those are the ones that I track. But if there are others, you can let us know.
Bessie and Zeller are the two that I needed.
Bessie is Bessey.
Okay.
And Zeller is Xeller, it looks like.
Okay.
Yes.
That was all I needed. Thank you, Your Honor. Have, let's see, 70 pages.
And then I just need also your CSR and time of completion whenever you're ready.
Sure. End time 11:39. My CSR is 14344.
14344.
You got it.
Okay, terrific. Thank you very much, Ms. Barnard, for your help. At this time, Dr. Hill, you're free to disconnect, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Paris for additional board matters.
Okay. Well, thank you again for all of your time. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge Gavin. Just for the board and the public, we had a kind of a soft tentative time for a presentation on the call. It's agenda item 14. It was a presentation from the Federation of Chiropractic Licensing Board's executive director regarding recognized chiropractic specialty programs. I'm checking in with him currently to see, and if it's okay with you, Judge Gavin, if we can get that in and then come back to closed session maybe at around noon.
That'll work for me if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. So let me check in. So it looks like that's okay. So if we can have the moderator promote, please, Dr. Schwartzbauer, and I'll just let him get going. And he, I believe he has a hard stop at 12. So, and then we will move on to closed session after his presentation discussion.
Dr. Schwartzbauer is with us and able to mute and unmute at will.
Okay, great. Well, welcome, Dr. Schwartzbauer. And Dr. Schwartzbauer is the Federation of Chiropractic Licensing Board's executive director. And he's here to give us a presentation and brief overview on the FCLB's recognized chiropractic specialty programs, the RCSP program. Dr. Schwartzbauer, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Paris, and thank you, board, as well as Ms. Walker. Thank you for all of your hard work and working with our staff through the years. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I'm trying to see about sharing my video, but I'm not sure if that's allowed or...
That is allowed.
Okay.
Down at the bottom of your screen in the center, you should find a button that says share.
Got it.
You're going to have to choose between a file and or a specific screen.
Got it. Okay. And I think I have it now. Are you able to see that?
We can see that.
Excellent, excellent. I know, Dr. Paris, you and I talked about maybe even doing a little brief intro on FCLB first, because maybe there's some members of the board that are unfamiliar with FCLB. Given the time restraints, I think I'll just jump to the topic at hand, and maybe we can reschedule another time to maybe do a deeper dive into the FCLB, because I just want to be respectful for all of your time. I know you have a busy agenda, and I appreciate you being flexible here. Just to learn a little bit more about the recognized chiropractic specialty programs. The RCSP came about 5 years ago, where a number of our member boards, I should say, came to the FCLB and said, you know, we are having a difficult time assessing chiropractic, so-called chiropractic specialties, where there was a period of time where, as you could imagine, chiropractors filing complaints against other chiropractors in their area who are advertising that they are so-called specialists in XYZ chiropractic, and you know, those chiropractors filing the complaint knew darn well that there was no such specialty in that area, or the concern was a chiropractor claiming that they were a specialist after taking maybe a 12-hour weekend seminar on a certain form of chiropractic or technique or assessment delivery type of a situation. And so our boards came to us and first asked us if we would be willing to draft some model language around what it means to be a specialist. Is there a certain number of hours? Should the test be an independent examination? Those kinds of things that came to the forefront. And so we gladly created Model Practice Act language around specialty programs, and that was very well received by the member boards. The next request came through about maybe, you know, us, the FCLB, could we be a vetting organization to vet these specialty programs for member boards of the FCLB, because quite frankly, they just didn't have the expertise or the time to assess these programs for quality and effectiveness. And so the last couple of years, the FCLB has been working hard to create a program to do just that, to vet these specialty programs. And so that's what I'm here to talk briefly with you today about. So that's a little bit about the history. The RCSP and the FCLB's values is always about reducing workload for our member boards. Our boards, our board administrators, our board staff, board members, they're just overworked and quite frankly don't have the time. And so if there's anything that the FCLB can do with any of our programs to help with that workload, that drives us. And so that's a big part of what the RCSP program does as it relates to chiropractic specialties. We also provide reports on, specialty programs as the courses and the programs start to go through. And this will help our regulatory boards have confidence in the quality of the programs that are out there. Our review team, our review members of these specialty programs have expertise in postgraduate chiropractic education to assess the quality of these programs. The programs have to demonstrate compliance with 26 criteria in order to meet recognition. And so our assessors will review the programs based on those 26 criteria. We also offer retrospective reviews to ensure continued compliance as review courses are coming in from the providers. What this does is it helps the boards to no longer have to dedicate staff members or board members to review these programs because they've already been reviewed by our RCSP committee. One thing that's important to know is that, you know, the SCLB is and always is regulatory members made up of regulatory boards like you. You are the ones that elect decision makers to the FCLB, and we pick and choose people to serve on these kinds of committees because of the voice that you have, especially in California being one of our bigger states. It's important to note that RCSP is not the only approval process. There are providers of specialty programs that may choose not to receive recognition through RCSP, and the boards have to have a mechanism in place that will still be allowing them to review and approve those kinds of specialty programs itself. So this is not a one-size-fits-all. There's a need for both avenues or both pathways. Boards are, as you know, legally required to maintain their own authority. So RCSP is a means of delegating some of the workload associated with that authority, but you still need to maintain final authority, even if you do delegate that to us, just like you delegate for your fingerprinting and your criminal background checks and your examination to MBCE. It's a similar process to that. What does the profession get from RCSP? We hope that they get improved specialty program offerings. If a program has to now become compliant with these 26 criteria that were crafted carefully to ensure quality, we hope that translates into better specialty programs that are out there. So increased quality and credibility of specialty programs is certainly an outcome that we expect. And then certainly if people go through these programs, we hope that there's better trained professionals and an enhanced professional standing for the profession of chiropractic. As for RCSP fees, there are no fees to member boards. The programs itself, if they choose, it's voluntary, but if they choose to be recognized by RCSP, they do have to pay an application fee and an annual recognition fee, but there are no costs to the member boards. So in a nutshell, that's sort of the oversight of the RCSP program. And I wanted to, I think there's still good enough time to allow for questions, and I'm happy to receive some of those questions. We do have a website, and I would encourage you to go to our website at rcsp.fclb.org. Is that showing up on your screen now? The website? No, okay, I think I just need to share a different screen here, excuse me. I think it should be showing up now. This is our website. It's got all the information you need, including the policy documents, which regulatory boards accept RCSP. Once the goal is we want to get up to 17 regulatory boards to approve RCSP in their regulatory language. And once we hit that, then we plan on taking this to the actual providers to allow them to understand that, well, we've got 17 regulatory boards that have accepted RCSP. And then now that we have that, it's a great time for you to apply for recognition through our application process. So it's got a great bit of information here on it. Like I said, all of our documents, the application itself, which states currently approve, the model regulatory language that we've created to help states who don't have language already in place for specialties to consider. And again, our governing documents, the policies and procedures, and the 26 criteria are all to be found on the website. So with that being said, I think I'll pause for some questions.
Oh, that was great. Thank you, Dr. Schwartzbauer. Thank you for sticking around for us too.
Sure.
Appreciate that. Let me open it up to the board. I see a hand up. Let me go to Dr. Daniels.
Hi, Dr. Schwartzbauer. Thank you for the presentation. What I find on the website, I didn't see it in the criteria that was listed. What is being used as far as guidelines for implementation for items such as standards in distance learning, also implementation of like accreditation that's essential for today, guidelines for the teachers, recommended course, practical guides, etc. I was looking more for some of the detail behind the criteria. Would I find those references on the website?
Yeah, so we do have criteria 23 talks about our distance learning requirements. We do have a criteria related to faculty and instructors. I believe that is criteria number 12. We do, I'm sorry, I think I forgot the other one that you were talking about. If you don't mind repeating that, Dr. Daniels.
Oh, it was just like in the literature, there's guidelines for implementation for things that are essential for accreditation. And I did read through the criteria. I was just wondering if this was it in totality, or if there's another document that has more subsections as far as, literature referencing standards for distance learning, so that everyone's doing the same thing, et cetera.
Yeah, I really do appreciate that question. And just to be clear, this is not an accrediting program. It is a recognition program. So it does not credential providers of specialty programs. So it probably does not go to the highest level of critique. It is what I would probably call somewhere in the middle. CCE has residency programs. And I think that's probably the highest level that you would probably be able to find within the chiropractic profession. This is sort of supposed to be a middle of the road where it's demonstrating compliance with certain criteria, but maybe not at the highest level, which I think is probably what you would find at the CCE residency program level. Yet this is better than, I think, the typical, claims of a specialist after a weekend seminar kind of a thing. So this is supposed to be like a middle landing ground. And we certainly encourage people who are looking for the highest level to seek that out at the CCE for sure.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that question. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank Dr. Adams because Dr. Adams is on our RCSP committee. So thank you, Dr. Adams, for your assistance there. And we are excited about this. We are just launching this. So we only have a couple of states so far that have agreed to be an RCSP resource. And so we hope California will consider us in the future. Of course, if you have more dialed down, deeper questions, you can always submit those through Dr. Paris. Dr. Paris is your District 4 director for the FCLB on our board of directors and does a fabulous job. And I know he would be a great liaison, but we're also welcome or happy to come back any point in the future to answer further questions as there may be discussion. And I will just ask if there's any final questions, and if not, I will let you get back with your great work. Appreciate all of what you do. I know sometimes it's not a very thankful job and thankless job probably, and so appreciate all of your work.
Any further questions from anyone on the board?
Thank you for your time and your presentation.
Yeah, and Dr. Schwartzbauer, if you can stick around for just a minute, are you okay if I open this for public comment? See if there's any questions?
Absolutely. And I just figured out which button to press for my
Oh, there
camera.
you go. We got you. There you go. Let me, moderator, can we please open agenda item 14 for any public comment?
We are open for public comment via WebEx for agenda item 14. This is the presentation we just saw. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you have 3 different screens and only one of them has a hand. So you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... at the bottom, and cycle through those screens to find a hand. We're going to take just a few more seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay. Dr. Schwartzbauer, thank you very much. Thank you for being flexible and thank you for coming and presenting to us today. And I'm pretty sure we'd like to have you back and you know, lots of products at FCLB and an overview of FCLB. We have new board members and I think an introduction to the FCLB in general and would be fantastic for us. So we'll be in touch and thank you very much.
Glad to do it. Thank you, Dr. Paris. Have a good rest of your meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You also. Okay. Give me a second. Let me get organized here. We're playing a little more ping pong with the agenda than we usually do. And I think Judge Gavin, we said we'd be back at 12 to go into closed session. So if we could go to agenda item 3. Welcome back, Judge Gavin. And for members of the public, we will be in closed session. Moderator and Ms. Walker, do we need to give an estimate on time when we'll reconvene back to open session?
This is the moderator. From my side, no, we don't.
Okay.
And then Dr. Paris, if the intention is to take lunch immediately following closed session, then we should provide an estimate if we're going to go back into open session and then break for lunch after that.
Okay.
Like 1 o'clock.
Did we plan a 30-minute lunch? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
That'll be okay because it'll include closed session as well. Maybe plan for returning at 1 p.m. to accommodate closed session plus lunch.
Okay, let's return. We're going to go into closed session, and to members of the public, we will reconvene to open session at 1 p.m.
All right, we're going to need just a couple minutes here on the WebEx side. Hold on just a moment, please. For our current list of panelists, who needs to be removed?